Were you looking? Not my best group. Isn't that cute? Oh gosh, it's so deep. There we go. Speed strips aren't great, but they're good.
Hey guys, welcome back to Triple F Shooting. Today, well, when this comes out, it'll probably be Father's Day, so first and foremost, Happy Father's Day. Make sure we're honoring all our dads and pampering people like me, and that's just wonderful. In reality, we'll probably just grill and run around like we always do. However, part of being a father is protecting your family. So we're going to talk about some concealed carry crap again. One of the guns in the rotation that I use is the Smith & Wesson 442. It's pretty much the exact same thing as a 642. This is just in a black, I believe it's anodized finish or something like it, rather than the stainless gun. So the 442 is actually my very first carry gun. I had purchased another revolver before this one. It was a Rossi 6-shot 357 Magnum in like a full steel frame with a 2.5-inch barrel. I got it for really cheap because it was a while back, but unfortunately I don't have that revolver anymore. This one actually did a better job for me in the role that I wanted it to do. So let's talk about why that is.
This is the most awkward crap I've ever done. Okay.
So let's get into the shooting characteristics a little bit. Trigger pull on this thing, as I stated, is about 12 pounds. However, you can stage it. So you can literally hear that second click. I don't know if you'll be able to. I'll try to enhance the audio. But right now I'm essentially resting in like single action, to where if I were to give any more pressure to the trigger, my gun's going off. If you practice enough to stage the trigger, which I would only do in a, messing around on the range scenario, this gun's not meant to be fired that way, nor should you attempt it if you're actually in a defensive scenario. You can actually shoot this thing pretty accurately if you need to, and we'll have either demonstrated that in the video or I'll throw it in here.
Okay, so the 442 is typically like a very close-up gun. I'm gonna try it at 15 yards to see what we're doing. The only clean spot on the target is the groin region, so that's what we're gonna go for. But we have probably about a 10-11 pound trigger, very tiny grip, and those sights to deal with. If you've ever handled one of these, you can probably guess that the gun's not really meant to do this kind of work. But we're gonna try it. Alright, let's go see how we did. Well, I pulled, I'm not sure about that, if that was me or it could have been any of those, but 3 out of the 4 are a good group. I was just pulling them low, so I'd need to kind of change my sighting arrangement or just get better. But the gun can hold a good group at distance. It just obviously is something you're not going to do super fast. I was staging the trigger a little bit. We can talk about that in a minute, but it's still fairly capable. It just takes a little bit more work on your part. All right, got 4 rounds left out of my box. We're at like 20 yards. See if I hit even one. Hey. It's all right, because I hit like 5 with 4 rounds and a miss.
It really will shoot better than you probably can run the sights. So that's kind of your limiting factor. The double action trigger pull is very consistent. It's not a cheap kind of all over the place or creepy thing. It goes pretty much exactly the same every time. And if you practice your dry fire while aiming, you know, at a doorknob or a patch on the wall or whatever, you can get this gun to fire with minimal sight movement, which is what you're trying to do.
We'll go 2 hands this time. And I won't start in my pocket, which is going to make it hard. Better group. Yep. So overall with the draw, that took me 5 to dig in my pocket a whole bunch.
As I stated earlier, recoil is not terrible. It is what it is. If you go to plus P's, you're going to get more tired of it more quickly.
Super flinch.
And like I said, the sights suck. They're your limiting factor, but you can shoot this at distance. You don't really need to. There's other stuff better for that, and legally speaking, in a defensive situation, I don't know how well you're going to hold up if you're trying to shoot this thing at 20 yards. All right, so first off, what is the 442 good at? So obviously it is extremely small, so that's something you're looking for in a carry gun. We want this to fit pretty much anywhere that we can conceive. It is extremely light, also helpful for carry. I think it weighs 15 ounces loaded. I may be a little off on that by a few ounces with 38 Special in there, but it is extremely light by pretty much any other comparison to your modern carry guns, unless you're dropping into like micro 22s or 380s. It's chambered in 38 Special, which is effective enough and generally very easy to find, so the ammo isn't anything weird or hard to get a hold of. It's probably not as available as 9mm is, since that seems to be like the go-to for everybody, but you can still get a hold of it. The 442 is, in my opinion, inherently safe. I unfortunately have a lock pistol, if you can see that. There is a little weird Allen key thing in there with like a stud in the middle, and that actually is a key so that you can operate a gun lock that is internal. I don't remember when that began for Smith & Wesson. It's sort of like the Ruger, you know, giant lawyer crap all over the side of the barrel explaining that this is a gun and can harm you, for all the people that don't understand that. But this basically was put into the gun to avoid legal issues. It's kind of silly because the gun has somewhere around a 12-pound trigger pull and no access to any kind of a hammer. So there's no safety other than that stupid internal one, and a very long trigger pull means I have to mean to make this gun go off. I'm not going to run into any issues of, like, you know, accidentally tripping the trigger. It takes quite a bit of force and effort to make this go off, so the safety factor is really nice there. Now, there is also drop safety in this gun, so that if we don't have to go cowboy with it and load one, like all the way around, but one empty chamber. If I drop it, it should not go off due to drop safeties. I said doo-doo. Oh well. Going along with that simplicity and safety, this thing is pick up and go. If it's got rounds in it, there is nothing to do other than pick the revolver up, acquire your target, and squeeze through the trigger. So the pick up and go factor is really nice. I don't have any magazine springs to worry about. People debate the should I leave them loaded or not. I'm of the leave it loaded opinion, but some people freak out about magazine springs. Not an issue here. Now, the last pro is also a con. This will make you a really good shooter. It's an excellent training piece because if you can get good with this, shooting everything else is going to seem a lot easier. So that's going to lead us into what this doesn't do so hot. Most of the pros for this gun are in some way the cons as well. Because it is extremely lightweight and small, that means even with my hand size, I can get a pinky wrapped underneath, sort of, so there is some grip going on here. But two-handing, you're kind of mashing a lot into a small space. In fact, I actually run my thumb kind of up and away so that I don't interfere with anything else going on in here. Would not suggest thumbs forward like with an automatic because you could potentially get burned. That would be kind of an extreme thing, but the gun is so small that it takes some concerted effort and a little bit of like grip management to actually get on the thing. I almost prefer to shoot this one-handed given the distances that you're probably going to shoot it. With the lightweight, the recoil is moderate. I won't say it is a stomper by any stretch. If you got like plus P plus or something in there, it's probably going to be unpleasant, but with plus P's going through a box of 50, by the end of it, you can tell that you've been shooting. If you're shooting like cowboy loads or just kind of your basic 38 specials, it's not terrible, but the recoil on the bark because of the super short barrel is going to be more noticeable, which is something that's not going to lend itself to, maybe a new shooter. The sights are terrible. I think somewhere in the video we get a look at the sights when we start shooting into distance. If I have that, I'll throw it in here. But the sights are tiny, tiny little gutter sights that are just part of the frame. There's no adjustability. And then you have this front blade, the entirety of which is black all the way through. You have no contrast to be made or anything like that. You could absolutely paint, with some nail polish or gun sight paint on there to give you something to look at. But again, most people consider this an extremely short-range gun, meant only for very close defensive encounters, which I would generally agree with. So the sights, although they're difficult to see, it's not the end of the world given what you're going to use this for. Because it is so small, it is a 5-shot revolver instead of a 6 or even a 7 or 8. You can get revolvers with quite a few rounds, especially if you go into 22s. But you only get 5 rounds. It's arguable how necessary it is to have lots of ammo on your person, but if you can carry it, I don't see why you shouldn't carry it. So there's debate on how much is too much or how much is enough. 5 rounds is probably going to get you out of 99% of your situations that you'd be worried about. So in my head, I obviously am comfortable with carrying it, so it's enough. I would prefer more, thus the mainstay is the Shield Plus, but 5 rounds will do it if it has to, and if you're practiced with it. Also, with the fact that this is a revolver, you're going to be either reloading off of individual rounds, a speed strip, or something like this HKS speed loader. Now, I don't have a 5-shot speed loader. I find them to be a little bit dubious because you have this large round object rolling around in your pocket. You could carry like speed loader pouches or something like that, but you're starting to build distance off of your belt line with things like that, and I don't see the point. So I don't use these for this gun. I like the speed strip, and we'll get into that in a minute, but the reloads are going to be much slower than you would reload with an automatic. Instead of pulling one object that's fairly large, slapping into the gun, either racking it or dropping the slide. It is individually or some kind of a holder trying to finagle everything in there, peel it off and go. There are absolutely people that can reload stuff like this just stupid fast, faster than I can reload an automatic. I'm not that person. I don't practice with this enough to be there. So the reload is another con. Again, 5 shots is probably enough. How much do you worry about a reload? Finally, you can get laser grips for these things. I've never been a huge fan of lasers. Granted, I've never used them very much. I just never saw an enormous practical use for them, so I've just kind of avoided them. I do, however, really like a mounted light. I carry an individual light all the time, so you should always have something separate of a gun, because if you drop your keys in a parking lot and you pull your gun out to find your keys, that's probably going to be a bad thing if other people are watching or if someone's standing there. So a freestanding or handheld light is definitely useful, but I haven't really seen anything, maybe it does exist, but I haven't seen anything to put a white light onto something like this. Again, probably not terribly necessary, and then it would make it difficult to find holsters, so Alright, so with all the cons of carrying a small 5-shot revolver, and there's pretty much an even amount of pros in my opinion, why would I still carry something like this occasionally over something like this? I have a hair wedged in there, but this is carrying, you know, even with the flush fit smaller mag, it conceals really well. It is a little larger, but not a lot larger than the 442. It's not a ton heavier. I've got a light. I've got 11 rounds of 9mm, which is plenty effective. If I wanted, I could put a red dot. Like, there's so many things that this does better, which is why it's my main carry gun. However, I can't always haul that thing around depending upon how I'm dressed or what the occasion is. So generally it comes down to what you're wearing, but this thing works really well, as you probably saw in the stupid intro, out of a pocket holster. I really, really like this pocket holster, and I never thought I would say that because I didn't carry this in a pocket ever before, you know, maybe a year ago. So I usually carried like this. This is not the first holster I ever had. I actually gave that one to my father because he has the same gun, but something like this with a belt clip where it's, you know, I can put my shirt over it and it's riding on my waistline, pretty easy to get to, was how I carried this gun for a long time. But once I got into automatics, this thing kind of just went away and was just kind of a spare truck gun, something like that, until I started using a pocket holster. If we're going to church or I have to be dressed up in some kind of way, the pocket holster is awesome. If I have a shirt tucked in, you're going to see extra clips. Most people don't care. This is like a tuckable clip, but it's a little obvious. And then getting to your gun is like, now rip my tucked in shirt, get my gun and all that crap. Whereas a pocket holster, it's reach in, grab the grip and pull. It's not very fast compared to a standard belt holster. And I won't start in my pocket, which is going to make it hard. But if you are situationally aware and something doesn't seem right, putting a hand in your pocket is not awkward or strange to do, while grabbing your shirt and reaching for your belt line might be a little bit more obvious. So you can actually rest with your hand in your pocket around the grip, ready to go. If something were to happen, the gun's out, and as far as that type of draw, it's probably, I'm faster that way than I am like reaching down for my belt pistol and all that. So I still really, really like this gun for if I'm dressed up a little bit or if the pocket is really my best option, and it's really nice to have options when you are worried about defending yourself and your family. The only other thing that I would like to do when it's really hot in the summer and all that stuff, and you want to wear like athletic shorts or whatever, and you're not going to have a belt on, a belly band of something or some type might be nice to tuck this into, although at that point, I could probably run a belly band with my Shield Plus or anything else just as easily. So the main thing this is doing for me now is riding around in a pocket if I have to dress up a little bit or have a tucked in shirt, something like that. So this still rides around. I still use it, still practice with it. I really, really love this gun. It's just not maybe the most practical. It's kind of a niche pistol. So, or revolver, I should say. Lastly, we should talk about why this was my first carry gun and why it's maybe not the best first gun, and it's often pushed on a lot of people, especially women. This was my first carry gun because it was very light, very small. I figured, man, that'll hide just about anywhere. And I practiced with it plenty. I was confident in it and decent enough with it. And other guns of a similar size, once I got into the autos, I could shoot twice as good, twice as fast. So this thing will do the job. It just isn't a newer autoloader. A lot of women get pushed this direction on the first gun, or a lot of people just think this is an excellent first time carry gun, especially if you're, you know, talking to people at the gun store or whatever, because it's so light and small and takes quite a bit of pressure to get that trigger off. That's why it's always pushed on people. A lot of people pick this thing up, shoot it, and say, I freaking hate that, and I never want to shoot it again. That's pretty much what my wife did the first time she messed with it. So not a great first gun. It's an excellent niche gun. It takes practice. Something to keep in mind. But with all of that said, again, I hope everyone has an excellent Father's Day and honors their fathers and whatnot. But that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for watching Triple F Shooting, and we'll see you in the next video.
Don't need a knife.
It's okay, we can edit that out, right?
No, I'll definitely leave it in.